you just turn on the TV or you go to the movies, are you getting great models and examples of what it means to be a good Christian man, a good Christian woman, and how a man should treat a woman, how a woman should treat a man, and how they should interact together? No, our culture bombards us with images that are corrupt, images that lead us astray. And not just the images, but in the messages and the lessons that we've learned from our childhood, from our years as teenagers and college, and afterward. Our culture is constantly giving us a false message of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, and what love is really all about. And this especially takes place, of course, in our culture in the 1960s. There were many problems long before that, but those problems became widespread in the mainstream of the culture in the 1960s and the sexual revolution. And that was when the culture was saying to us, we need to set aside what the church says. We need to set aside what the Bible says or what your parents says about love, about relationships, about marriage. What we want to do is be free from tradition so that we can just be ourselves. And you'll have a better relationship with other people if you're just being yourself. And you just express your love however you want to, which might be different than the way other people want to. Don't just follow some rules that the church has given you, or that the Bible has written about, or that your parents told you, or your pastor told you. No, just be authentic, be yourself. If we can free ourselves from the chains of all of these rules about relationships, then we're just going to be so much happier. So the sexual revolution promised that we'd have better friendships, dating relationships, marriages, and families. And if we stay on back here now in 2009, we look back over the last 30, 40 years, and I don't need to convince you that the sexual revolution didn't deliver the goods. In fact, it's caused great tragedy. Let's take a look at some different relationships, like we'll look at dating relationships, but first of all, marriage. Let's talk about marriage. What's the biggest statistic often quoted when people talk about marriage? The divorce rate. They say about 50% of all marriages end in divorce. I'm not going to talk about that today because everybody always talks about that. And I have dear friends who've gone through that pain and heartache of divorce. And it's really only through Jesus Christ and his healing and his comfort that they're really able to make it through that. That's such a painful experience. Some of you know people who've gone through that. But I'm not going to address that. What I want to do is talk about what I like to call the other 50% of the equation. The marriages that are staying together. How are those marriages doing today? Are those marriages happy ones? Are those marriages in which husbands and wives really feel close together? They've got a great relationship of trust and intimacy. 50% in divorce, but when you take the other half of the pie graph, so to speak, you know what the percentages are here? Guess how many married couples really experience their marriage as one in which they have got great trust and closeness with their spouse. They feel like they married their best friend. What would you guess? 10%. Yeah, it's just a little over 10%. Isn't that tragic? So half end in divorce, and now picture that you got the other half of the pie graph, just a little sliver are marriages that are really strong ones. Now don't get me wrong, I mean a marriage that stays together is a good thing, but we want something more than that in our lives, don't we? If you bump into me 10 years from now and you say, oh, Ted Sri, I met you down in Clearwater, how's your marriage going? I say, oh, it's great, we haven't divorced yet. You know, that might be a good thing, but a good marriage really is one in which husband and wife can look each other in the eye 10, 20, 30 years in a marriage and say, I love you more now today than I did when we were first married. A good marriage is one that reflects the love of Christ for his church. Now that's marriage. But when you take a look at dating relationships, and this is where all of you are at, you know that there's not a lot of great clarity about how men and women are supposed to interact today. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, and tons of insecurity. We start a relationship with someone else. Are we friends? Are we dating? Well, maybe we're just friends, or are we super friends? We're kind of like in that in-between zone, you know? And that causes a lot of confusion. You know? So who's that guy that keeps stopping by? You know, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. You know? You know, it just causes a lot of uncertainty. And then you think about how much pain and heartache there have been in relationships, how many people have had relationships that they thought, this is the one. This is the one that, you know, I think this might be it. Finally I found Mr. Right or Mrs. Right. And then we only find out later on that the other person really wasn't that faithful to us. They weren't truly interested in us. They were looking out more for themselves. And while we originally thought very highly of this person, now we end up in great disillusionment about this other person and maybe even about love and relationships and the opposite sex altogether. tell you a story of a friend of mine who I worked with. Before I was a theologian, I worked out in the corporate world for a number of years. And there was somebody I worked with many years ago, and I remember she had a lot of ups and downs in her relationships with guys. And then I left the company, and we hadn't seen each other for a long time, and eventually got married, and she sent me a nice gift and a card for my wedding, and I finally got reconnected with her. So I talked to her on the phone, and she told me, oh, I just moved in this new place. Oh, really, where are you? And she told me, I'm in this new city, and oh, what brought you there? Oh, well, my boyfriend lives here, and I just moved in with him. And I heard them like, oh no, it's going to happen again. But I didn't say anything. I just listened to her and said, oh, well, tell me about your job, your new city. Just caught up on old friends. And then I came back to that relationship, and I just asked a very simple question. I said, so tell me, how's that relationship going with your boyfriend? Are you happy? I just asked one simple question about her relationship with her boyfriend. Are you happy? And on the other end of the phone, there was dead silence. And after about 10, 15 seconds, which is a long time in a phone conversation, all of a sudden in that silence, I start hearing some weeping. She's weeping on the other end of the phone. And as she's weeping, she starts telling me, she goes, I've been moved in with him now just 2 weeks, and I know he's not the one. And now she starts bawling. She goes, Ted, I know he's just using me. And she's just sobbing. And in the midst of those sobs, she just says, Ted, why does this keep happening to me? Why does this keep happening to me? And she kept repeating this over and over. Why does this keep happening to me? Why does this keep happening to me? My friends, today what we're going to do is take a look at John Paul II's teachings, his vision for men and women relationships.